What's up, friends? Welcome back to Coffee Time with Alice. Hope y'all are doing real good out there. I'm not gonna dilly or dally. I'm just gonna jump right back into what I like to call my Pillars of Rock and Roll series. Now, today's artist is somebody who inspired me so much that I changed the lyrics in one of the songs I wrote to have her in it. She's somebody who deserves a lot more credit for what she gave blues and popular music, as well as what women in music have nowadays. I'm talking about someone that I like to call the first Riot Grrrl, Memphis Minnie. Born in 1897, Elizabeth Kidd Douglas, born in either Walls, Mississippi or New Orleans, there's debate on that, set out to live life on her own terms at a very early age. Living on the plantation, she grew up being told there were only two options for black women at that time. You either work the fields or you work in domestic servitude. She said no to both. Finding inspiration from a lot of the Delta blues musicians during that era, whether they were traveling or playing out in the street or in the shops, along with the mother of blues, Ma Rainey, she pursued music at an early age. She started playing banjo at the age of 7, guitar at the age of 10, and by the time she was 13, she ran away from home, went to Memphis, and lived on Beale Street, which was known for being a place of street music, prostitution, gambling, and just various business, because unfortunately segregation shoved everybody onto that one street. But she used this as a learning experience. She learned a lot of different viewpoints, saw a lot of different walks of life, developed her own craft, learning from other street artists, including Willie Brown, who she'd be partnered with for a little while. And by 1917, she joined Ringling Brothers Circus. There's where she would develop her stagecraft, elevating her from being only a musician to also being a performance artist, setting her even further apart from other artists during that period. During the 1920s, she would continue developing her craft and would marry another guitarist by the name of Joe McCoy. In 1929, they had their first recording sessions with Columbia, and it was during that time that they were given the monikers Memphis Minnie and Kansas Joe McCoy, names that would stick with them forever, even after their divorce in the mid-1930s, but we'll come back to that one. During their 1929 recordings, they recorded a lot of big hits like Me and My Chauffeur Blues, which Jefferson Airplane would ultimately cover, When the Levee Breaks, covered by Led Zeppelin, What's the Matter with the Mill, Bumblebee Blues, and many, many others. In 1933, they would move to Chicago. transitioning from the rural Delta blues to the urban Chicago blues. And Memphis Minnie was one of the few artists who successfully adapted. She would ultimately have competitions against Big Bill Broomsey and Muddy Waters, winning both the competition and their respect, along with the respect of all of her counterparts in the Chicago scene. And going back to their divorce, Kansas Joe was known for being a little bit jealous of Memphis Minnie, and most likely that's probably what led to their divorce, along with maybe other things. You don't know people's private lives. But she would meet her second and final husband, Ernest's little son Joe Lawlers. And they'd be married for 23 years until his death in 1961. But during those 23 years, they performed beautifully together. They textured their sound, adding other musicians like piano players, and saxophone and horns and whatnot. And Memphis Minnie, her lyrics, they got more autobiographical, especially with songs like In My Girlish Days. And they would have a lot of success. Like I said before, during the span of her career, she would do over 200 recordings between her time with Kansas Joe, her time with Little Son Joe, and recordings by herself. She would go for a long, long time. Her final recordings would be in 1949. And after that, a lot of record labels quit producing as many blues records. They put their focus more on the emerging rock and roll scene. But she and Little Son Joe had their live audiences that kept them going for a while until 1957, when she had a heart attack that prevented her from playing anymore. And as I mentioned earlier, Little Son Joe would pass away 4 years later in 1961. And Memphis Minnie would live in a nursing home for the next 11 years, right there in Memphis, Tennessee, where her career started. And she passed away in 1973. She lived in poverty for those final years and didn't even have a headstone for her grave. Her grave was unmarked until the 90s, when some people, including Bonnie Raitt, would donate money to get her a proper headstone. She's gone, but her impact is felt. People don't talk about her the way they talk about Sister Rosetta or Chuck Berry or Robert Johnson or Muddy Waters. But she was every bit as inspirational and brilliant and influential. So many of her songs helped develop the blues formula that artists of all the other genres that would come out of it would ultimately use. You pull up any of her songs, it translates so easily to old school punk that you would have heard in the late 60s and 70s. That strong downbeat, that strong rhythm. The interesting thing with Memphis Minnie is she did a different guitar tuning. Very similar to Skip James and Henry Stuckey, but she was not part of the Bentonia music school. No, she used Spanish tuning. And she also loved using capos. For those unaware what capos are, they're a clip you can put on the fretboard of your guitar that basically creates a new nut and therefore a new tuning for your guitar. The reason why I like to call her the first Riot Grrrl, especially as my band is about to play at the Doll Fest weekend, and it showcases a lot of brilliant Riot Grrrl and queercore bands. It's got me thinking about the giants whose shoulders we all stand on, and Memphis Minnie is definitely one of them. She was assertive, which was not popular for women artists, especially black women artists, to be at that time. Like I said earlier at the beginning of this, she lived life on her own terms. She was not going to let anybody tell her how to play her music or how to live her life. She did what it took to survive. She found her own way with that. You hear it in her songs like You Can't Rule Me and Make a Change Blues, two of my favorite pieces of hers. She was the image that a lot of people have of her, including Langston Hughes, who wrote a poem about her in 1943, was her playing the guitar with that big, big sound. Even before electric guitars, she knew how to amplify an acoustic guitar to be as loud as an electric guitar. She could fill a room with her sound, with a smile, and she'd just spit out some tobacco and not miss a lyric as she was singing. She didn't care what others thought, but she worked professionally. She understood business. She could handle herself in terms of music, she could handle herself in terms of business, and she could handle herself if somebody dared to get violent with her. She didn't take anybody's crap. And that's essentially what Riot Grrrl is about. So yes, let's raise our coffee mugs to Memphis Minnie, the first Riot Grrrl. And for the record, all the other women of that era, they're Riot Grrrls too. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to take a sip of this coffee here for Memphis Minnie. I love you all. I hope we've all learned something and found some inspiration. And I'll be back next week with another legend. Stay safe, keep growing, keep learning. I'll see you next week.
Ain't no good at times. I can't stay no longer. I'm got traveling on my mind. I'm not in love. My heart don't pain. 'Cause your whiskey drinking me don't mean a thing. Yes, I got to make a change. You ain't no good at times, and I can't stay no longer. I've got traveling on my mind. Got to go. Don't never love a man 'cause he talks sweet and nice. Do you have to make a change? They ain't no good at times.